Greetings, YouTubians. We're back in the shoe shop. It's hot, it's the summer, and I think it's great. I'd much rather deal with the heat than the cold. These are a great old pair of lucchese. I think that's how you pronounce it. Handmade, I think in Texas. But these are real nice boots. And it's got a pretty bad cut here. Looks like the leather just let go, and that could just be from faulty material, or maybe it got caught on something. But I'm going to have to take these pretty much all apart down to the welt. This is a classic case, man. You know, when you get a good pair of cowboy boots, they break in really well, and you don't want to give them up. Well, first things first, we're just going to have to separate the sole from the welt. I'm just going to put a light coat of thinner on here. I'm being pretty cautious not to oversaturate it because I don't want it to kind of get onto the uppers and stain them any more than they already are. Kind of put this guy in here. There you go. You can kind of hear the stitches breaking or cutting. You can hear those stitches cutting. Something weirdly satisfying about that. Don't know what it is, but they're a high quality boot. There's no, you know, no foam fillers. It's all leather. You know, just really made to last and to be repaired. You know, these guys built these knowing that the owner, you know, if you spend a lot of money, it makes sense to keep them nice, you know. So, see, the inside is all leather here, and the hand stitching in there. So I'm going to have to take that off, get a patch in there, restitch that, and then stitch these guys back on here. This is the thinnest leather welt I've actually ever seen on a boot or a shoe. Very, very delicate. You can see it's all hand stitched, so that's how I'm going to put it back together. So we got this all apart here. Cut a little piece of leather. I'm going to kind of skive down the edges, thin out the edge, make it a little thinner. Sneak that in there, and then restitch this welt back onto this upper. So I'm just going to skive down this edge here, basically thin it down so there's no hard edge. Sneak that patch into that little gap there to reinforce it. So I got both sides of that patch secure on the outside and on the inside. So now I'm just going to glue this guy down. What the heck do we have here? The freaking bugs this year, out of control. All right. So I got my old wax thread, a little curved awl. I'm just going to restitch this welt back onto the upper using the old shoemaker lock stitch. So just one stitch at a time. It's going to take some time, but it'll be worth it in the end. It'll be a good solid repair. So I got that welt all stitched back on there in that little groove. Actually looks pretty good. If you take a quick little look in here, you can see those little stitches. Kind of boogered it up a little bit there at the bottom. It's kind of hard finding the old pre-existing holes, but looks like that fly is giving it his seal of approval. That dirty rat bastard. Just putting a light coat of glue on here, battling the flies that have seemed to have decided to invade my shop here. Over the years, I've worked with, I started with my brother-in-law and his dad, but over the years I worked in a couple of other shops. Everybody does something a little bit differently, and sometimes you learn the stuff you've been doing and thinking is correct for all these years is not at all. Somebody gives you a better idea how to do it. So, always trying to learn more. Well, we're back in the shop, and I'm back on these lucchese cowboy boots. I finally got that patch all in there. I got them stitched on my Landis K, but unfortunately I had some issues with this darn thing, man. It just wasn't cooperating the way I wanted it to. So I'm going to put these heels on here today. I'm actually going to, I got machine stitched here, and now I'm going to kind of hand stitch this for lack of the machine actually working. It's not something I would normally do, but the customer needs their boots back, and I got to get it done. So we're going to give these a good conditioning, make them look a lot better, and hopefully give the customer many more years of service. Okay, so I got the boots up on the last, or I got the one up on the last. I'm just going to pull these rubber lifts off. Sometimes they come off pretty easy, actually, like this one. That came off pretty good. Sometimes, like anything, you end up fighting it. There's a couple little nails in here. Just make sure that guy's all solid. But yeah, you know, sometimes the simplest jobs become the most complex. This actually has been a bit of a challenge. I was pretty confident with how that stitcher was working. See, look at that, it comes right off. Wow, was working before. So I took this whole thing apart, you saw it previously, and patched it and kind of rebuilt the whole thing from the inside, but then the finishing touch was that stitching. So I got the stitching in there. You know, it's gonna work out fine, but just not absolutely the how I hoped it would. So the actual stacked heel on these are in really good shape. They're square. There's no wear on the actual stacked heel, the leather part. So I'm really just gonna rough these up, give that glue something good to adhere to, and rough up the actual material that we're putting on here and get these glued on. It's a pretty quick job. I turned off some of the lights in here. These last couple of videos, it just looks like it's, I don't know, the lighting is extremely harsh. So I'm going to try this without this main light off, and I don't know, eventually get some kind of studio lighting, or I don't know, something that's maybe a little bit easier. But luckily for YouTube and Instagram, there's a huge community of people fixing shoes and leather crafters and all that stuff. So I literally put a call out on my Instagram about, hey, does anybody know, you know, if there's a manual or anything like this for these old stitchers? You know, they've been around forever. They're virtually unchanged. And people rely on them for their everyday living. I know I certainly did when I was doing this full time. I just heard from the customer this morning asking when her boots will be done. That was always a thing in the shoe repair business too, is that I learned early on, is that people would drop off a pair of shoes and come back once or twice and ask if they were done. And because they really had no system on how to do them every day, a lot of stuff just kind of got, you know, if it was in the bottom of the bin, it was the last thing to be done. Lessons learned. So I'm gonna let that set up, get these on here, sand them, shine them, condition them, and make them look a lot better, and then go put them out in my mailbox so the customer can pick them up. Let's see. These are going to look like new, which is always kind of a question you have too, because sometimes, you know, people just love their old boots and they kind of want them to look a little bit beat up or worn in. You know, that's kind of the charm of old stuff and old people. You know, that they show a life well lived, man. And that's, I guess, just like people, you know, with wrinkles and gray hair, man. You earn it every day, that's for sure, man. YouTube has been such a good resource for me. Like, you know, we got a bunch of chickens. I didn't know nothing about chickens, man. Chicken McNuggets was about as close as I ever got to a chicken. So now that we've got, you know, we've had 20 at one point. I think we're down to 9 or 10 now. But, you know, you just can kind of learn from other people's experiences. Let me show you something else here that's pretty cool. These are actually put together with wooden dowels. I don't know if you can see in here, there's like little, they kind of hold everything together without nails or glue, because it's, you know, the wood and the leather kind of swell together. So we used to have a bunch of like little wooden dowels to kind of replace all that stuff, but an old shoemaker showed me this thing too, where you just use the proverbial chopstick. So I just ran this thing on the sander a little bit to get it to be the right diameter to fit in here. Okay, get these guys sanded down, heels on and kind of basically trimmed. Got that all hand stitched on there. as well as possible. Like I said, it's not exactly, you know, what I would want to do right from the jump, but with that machine acting up, it'll do the same thing. Just takes a lot more time. It's just doing a little fine sanding on these heels here. With just a little maintenance, you know, everything lasts a lot better. And because these boots are made by hand, you just have to reverse engineer them to repair them. I'm just going to put a light coat of color on this heel stack and around the edge of the sole. And like I said, I'm not going to kind of like overdo these, because part of the charm of old cowboy boots is that they look like old cowboy boots. So who knows what the story is with these? You know, maybe they're not just a pair of boots. Maybe they're their dad's boots, or a friend of theirs boots, or, you know, something that has like a real connection to their memories. That's how I see a lot of stuff, man, that everything really has a story. And I like to preserve it, you know. But these are looking good already. Like I said, because they're really high quality shoes or boots, you know, they're made with really high quality materials. So with just a little TLC, they come back to life pretty well. You know, and most people understand that, you know, you're not getting a new pair of new boots back. You're getting something that's been kind of resurrected a little bit. You can see that's coming up really nice. I want them to look like your Sunday go to meeting boots. You know, sometimes you'd be, you know, stepping out or dancing. Well, here we go, another completed job, and I'm actually satisfied with them. They came out okay. I think the customer will like them. I gave them a good conditioning, put these new heels on here, got the patch in the side piece there, so hopefully they'll get a bunch of years of good solid use on these guys. Well, thanks for watching, everybody. Stay tuned for more cool stuff. See you on the next one.